people are very predispositioned to the way they were trained. So surgeons are paid to cut, they're not paid to cut people that don't need to be cut. Okay, I mean, most surgeons be honest about that, that's what they do. And, you know, their techniques are based on the way they learned. You know, some of them develop new treatment techniques and develop new methods, stuff like that, and they develop it. Some just come out and say, I always did it this way, I'm gonna do it this way, my results are good. I don't really care. And others don't do that. So that's another aspect that you can look at, is that always a second opinion is good. If somebody comes in and tells you to do a very advanced procedure, sometimes you take a step back, say, wait a minute, what is their background? Why are they telling me to do that? And kind of evaluate that. And that's complicated where you might need a second opinion in this case. Maybe there's something else that could be done. Maybe watch, or maybe some new advanced, less invasive procedures that these doctors are either not trained in, or just not even aware of it. So next question, is it ever right to take away someone's autonomy? Would a court order make this physician's decision ethical? So, you know, much like you mentioned earlier, so, you know, I guess the question is, if they truly don't know any better, does it make it right?
Would the patient still have to pay for the procedure? I mean, if I was given that option and I had to pay $70,000 for a procedure that might kill me,
If that's true, I just that's a good way out. I'm sure the healthcare district does. So, but that's a fair point, right? You know, I mean, do you have to pay for the procedure? If it was against your will, you know, that's a big deal. Any other thoughts? Okay, so what would you do? I mean, be honest. Okay. If you were one of the healthcare workers, so if you're a nurse in the room or you're a tech in the room, what would you do? You saw the doctors doing this. What if you were there? What do you do? I feel this all like that. But laws, just to give you a little background, laws don't always protect you. So sometimes they're pretty, what if you knew one of the decisions and you liked one of the decisions and they were friends of yours? I'm not friends, but you know, you simpatico at work, easy to get along with. Would that change what you would do?
I'd like to say no, but
It gets tough because you see all these like whistleblower law protections and non-retributive type protections. There's no guarantee those are false. They can find another reason. I mean, so example, I'll give you an example just this from a buddy of mine, this is years ago, was working for a particular restaurant, and if you worked there for 1 year, you got scholarship of X amount of dollars to go to college. So he was coming up on his year. So, and it was within the last 15 days, they fired him. And you know the reason they fired him for? Because when he closed down one night, he left one light on and one back. So why did they fire him? Because they didn't want to pay him money. And they knew he was coming up on that date. So they found a reason to fire him. So I'm glad these laws exist, but just keep in mind, sometimes people find ways around it and say, oh, you were 3 minutes late for a shift. We're going to terminate you. You didn't document this correctly. Oh, that's another site. And they can make your life difficult. So that's why some people don't always say, I agree with you. You should say something, right? But it becomes a little harder when you're in the middle of it and you're working with it. It becomes a little bit more of a challenge because you're like, oh, am I going to be seen as the one that was the, you know, flying the ointment with everybody at the ER busy that I turned a position in? It's a tough decision. Who else would do something?
uninvolved.
Don't involve yourself, blend into the wall. So even if you're in the room and you knew that she didn't consent to it,
So, because you're like legally liable.
but you're in the room, well, how she know you're there? She'll say, who's in the room? She's suing, you're gonna get pulled in court. And that's another thing to you. See, that protects you, right? If she's suing the hospital for millions, this girl. And she comes out and says, hey, I said, I blew the whistle saying that it shouldn't have happened. That protects her, right? From that standpoint. She's not in the room, she's protected. But if you just blend in the wall, they're gonna pull you in the court and ask you what you think. What happened? What did she say yes? Was she against it? Something to think about. Because believe me, they'll find every name on every chart in that room that looked at anything that dealt with that patient. If you so as much as you looked at it, your name's gonna be pulled up to at least be imposed as witness. So
And it's no, like, things like about. Looking for, something that would affect.
yeah, and most of the big ones do, but when you get the smaller offices or the smaller physician groups and all that that are there, those things don't really exist. And not that you can't prove it, but most people don't want to spend the time, right? They don't have the time to say, okay, listen, I got fired for whatever reason. It was a setup. Most people are just like, you know what, I've got time, I don't feel like hiring an attorney, I don't feel like going through all this stuff you may be 100% in the right. A lot of people just give up and say, I'm gonna forget, I'm moving on. So you have to kind of balance those things. The right thing would be to fight it, of course, but a lot of people don't for just that reason. You know what, I'm moving on, I got another job, I'm doing something else. I don't really care, I'm getting out of this, I don't want to be a part of it. So. But that's something to think about. It's a weird situation, right? But it could be, and you can transpose this into something medical physics. See a therapist set up a patient wall, and they go ahead and treat her. What do you do? I mean, do you go tell the physician? Do you interview with the therapist? They say no, we're treating them correctly. Do you still go bypass them? What if there's no way to prove that they were treating them right or wrong anyway? Where does it come down at? Those are some really tough conversations to have. It can escalate very quickly. Okay. Next case. You're a general practitioner and a mother comes into your office with her child who's complaining of flu-like symptoms. Upon entering the room, you ask the boy to remove his shirt. You notice a pattern of very distinct bruises on the boy's torso. You ask the mother where the bruises came from, and she tells you that they are from a procedure she performed on him known as Calgeo, which is also known as pointing. The procedure involved rubbing warm oils or gels on a person's skin with a coin or another flat metal object. The mother explains that Calgeo is used to raise the alpha glad blood, improve circulation, and healing. When you touch the boy's back with your stethoscope, he winces in pain and bruises. You debate whether or not you should call Child Protective Services. Question one. So I'm gonna give you all the okay. I mean, should we completely discount this treatment as useless, or could there be something gained from it?
There's something to be gained from it, should be done in the study, not just let the kid walk out. My opinion.
So, I mean, would you Google it? Or would you see if there's any, clinical studies or what is the overall thought process of it? The belief system in it, why do people do it? What is the history of it? A lot of these cultural beliefs within certain groups are very powerful, and then they have meaning and they have understanding. So you have to kind of walk down that road as well. You can't just jump in and say, I don't believe this. It becomes a very difficult process. But you're in a position now, do you call Child Protective Services? Or do you just treat the patient for what their flu-like symptoms? Boy, I'm gonna go.
If you don't have time to do like thorough research and stuff about
True.
and the time.
Yeah, it's always gonna be like, how's the weather? How you spelling again? And just curious. You're not gonna do that, but could you maybe let them go and then do the research and call Child Protective Service afterward? If you feel that it's not. You're a provider, right? You're a medical provider that, sees something that is concerning. Um, you know,
It doesn't really matter. Like there and the child would hurt you, like, danger, like, just like. It's like doing a call, anyway, the friend said, and the chat up, like.
Better safe than sorry, basically. Yeah, because, some people argue that there's some validity to that too, because if not, you're making the decision, right? So I'm deciding if it's a value treatment or not. I'm not even gonna leave it up to anybody else's concern. I'm gonna make that judgment call. And then you have to ask yourself, why am I the one that's allowed to make that judgment call? And since, I think we all looked at in here, it's questionable, since somebody took the child off sick pain, difficult, whether or not you believe that belief system that this particular family follows, all you do know is that the kids are paying and it's wincing, and maybe somebody else ought to completely independent take a look at it. It's not a bad idea. Then the next question is, when can a physician step in and stop culpable practice? Then so it's fine. So the thing is, like, if someone answers, just so you know, this is when it harms a child, and then kind of what we centered around, right? It appears the child is harmed, remind that person, that there is some pain in many of our medical procedures. For example, having tonsil treatment, you're inflicting pain on the individual. Okay, we deem that as an acceptable form of infliction of pain. Just as much maybe that this parent particular deems this as an acceptable amount of pain for this procedure that we're doing.
Is that fair?
Doubt it.
Because I think then, like what Richard was saying, that just goes back to what Daniel was saying, like, does this actually like provide any type of benefit?
Right.
Does it provide any type of benefit? Because I mean, if it's just like getting tonsils removed is set to a goal of preventing like tonsillitis in the future, and if you remove it, then you remove that option. It's a proven health benefit, but coinage, like if there's not any pure empirical studies on it, and then it's just like, is it better or not? Or is it just meaningless beyond like cultural stuff?
Yeah, and that's where it comes down to the discernment between cultural beliefs and acceptance in society, and what's tolerated, and where you're at, and how that's getting done.
I'd say that if the parent is taking it to the doctor, for the like symptoms, yes, that may be off at all.
It should.
No. Cause like that kid is probably getting like way better than suggested to go. Start with,
You being taken care of,
yeah.
even though they're wincing in pain and have bruises all over the torso.
One of the parents lying.
I'm just saying, like, CPS, what they do, they shove, make everything look like they're doing bad. Not hardly being bad, but hardly making it look like it. That's like the best they're gonna go to.
They could point on that one, but what if she's lying? What if the mother's lying? Really being the kid.
I'm still taking the doctor.
There was like a real situation where a woman, like a mother, had like a mental illness where she would need her own child care. And so figured like take the child to the hospital and realize something's wrong, I won't know. But like you never know, like something with the mother where she's like purposely inflicting the pain and so like going to a doctor and fixing that. It's like your blood pressure. You don't know what's going on in that pain.
Sure. That's called blood child origin. That's one charge by proxy. I like that. Look at he's throwing that out. It's his jacket has changed everything.
I told my that's all my customers and everything. I like it.
No, it's valid one. Those are all, it's the great thing that all these are very valid points. And not that anyone in that situation might think of that, the physician may not think of 90% of what we're talking about, but they're the ones that are in the front line to make that decision. So what would happen if 6 months later they found out that kid was child abuse and died from the knee. Well, what if they saw 6 months later, the kid was healthy, playing baseball and having a great time? Maybe there was nothing to it. You know, it's again, that he starts playing on your conscience when you have these things, you're like, do I intervene? That's the hardest thing in society now is when to intervene, when not. You know, remember it's like years ago, after 9/11, see something, say something, all this stuff, and then people started getting backlash because they were starting to point out all these things, and people were like, "Oh, you're accusing me of this," and people just said, "Now I'm going to avoid it." Now you get on the subway, and people are getting beat up front here, and people are just sitting there videoing and not intervening because you're like, "I don't want to get involved." So it becomes a big ethical dilemma of how much you put yourself out there. What happens when you do? Should the physician be concerned about alienating the mother and other people over ethnicity from modern medicine? I think that all centers around what we just talked about. And Gilman just said that the physician should report what we've already talked about. I think that's all those things have to be taken into consideration when you're autonomy part two. So maintenance of a patient autonomy is one of the major focuses of physicians. Therefore, a second discussion was also held that focused primarily on patient autonomy. Discussion also a woman was diagnosed with motor neuron disease. Here's my question. So it's okay, in parentheses, same disease as Stephen Hawking. So this condition that destroys motor nerves, making controlled movement impossible. While the mind is virtually unaffected, people with motor neuron disease normally die within 4 years of diagnosis and suffocate due to the inability of the inspiratory muscles to contract. The woman's condition has steadily declined. She is not expected to live through the month and is worried about the pain that she will face in her final hours. She asked her doctor to give her morphine, the pain relief that suffocates. She begins to suffocate her choke. This will lessen her pain, but will also hasten her death. About a week later, she felt very ill and was having trouble breathing. Okay. First question. Does she have a right to make this choice, especially in view of the fact that she will be dead in a short while, say 6 hours? Is this choice an extension of her autonomy?
Yeah.
You may say no. Oh, right. Go ahead. What? That's the jacket. I'm sorry, you're hitting it all today. So why do you say no? Doesn't tell me. I still think you have the right to kill themselves. One of these precious origins, natural death. So even though she knows it's coming, yes, that even something that could provide pain relief.
I mean,
I'm just curious.
Morphine's not the only drug used as a revives it. For this pain rush that we. I mean, morphine also affects your motor neuron. So I'm sure you can find other methods to relieve, but doing something, I think that rapidly speeds like that. For instance, actually, my wife had the same issue happening. It was almost the exact circumstance.
Really?
And the doctors and hospitals prescribed her just an incredible amount of morphine. This person, and the person died shortly after the morphine use. Which at that point, if the doctors administered it, that whole person.
Right, exactly.
So,
Right. Does that change your point if the person asks for it though? If they're capable of asking for it, I need more now.
And
I mean,
is,
like-
you know,
Sorry, like, the patient can ask for morphine, but like, it's dependent on doctor. If I was a doctor, I'm not gonna give out morphine, even though I know like students will, I wouldn't give it. Well, I mean, the patient can ask for anything,
Sure.
so I mean, as a doctor, I don't have to like,
So let me ask you this, there's a twist on that. So you don't want to give them enough to kill, right? You're right. But why if statistically they wouldn't necessarily die? Could, but they might not. Is that able to give them that amount?
I'm like, I'm still not gonna give it because like, I'm like, there's a whole like episode from Grey's Anatomy about like this particular issue. Not like, the doctor got fired. Because technically like, Yeah, like you can give the patient more pain, like reduce the pain, try to take it to the times. So you don't know if it's gonna work or not. So otherwise you don't keep it.
I mean, then at that point, then why would doctors try to push a certain procedure that has a risk of killing the patient?
Well, it goes back to the days of Oregon,
Yeah.
almost your all's time, but Oregon was assisted suicide, right? It was patients that were terminally ill. You go in and they're like, I'm dying, I'm in total pain. I'm just laying here. I can't live any longer. I can't take the pain. Just give me something to make it go away and let me die. So that became a whole ethical issue and it still reverberates through because it's the patient wish is saying, I want to be able to die. Which of course you can throw yourself off the building, right? I mean, we can all go leap off that ledge here and we'll all die at the bottom of Xena. But we'll argue, well, that's our choice, right? But you're asking someone else now to kill you, which becomes a different ethical issue. You're asking someone else to knowingly give you medicine that's going to kill you. And that becomes a really legal ethical issue.
Well, does
There's
the
a consent form for that.
I don't know, some states are, I don't believe there's, that's still the whole thing about legally dying. I don't think you can consent. You can DNR, do not resuscitate. So when you go in a hospital, if you have a very bad condition, you can sign a DNR. So if your heart stops, you stop breathing, they will attempt no resuscitation. That is legally allowed. You died you stop breathing or your heart has stopped on its own. They have not participated in that. So you can actually get into trouble if somebody signs a DNR and you resuscitate. That is a legal issue. You're not permitted to do it. So all those documents have to be signed and sealed up front at your admission that you have a DNR. And that's a big deal. When you get patients, it'll be like, when we treated some very sick patients, we'll be noted, they're like, we're taking the regular DNR. So if something happens to you, you do nothing to resuscitate.
well, does the patient know that if they get morphine that it's a higher likelihood of dying? And
And that's why we request.
okay.
So in this particular case,
So it's not just like they're just asking for morphine just for pain.
no, they know the point. They're like, listen, I'm getting close to that. It's gonna be very painful because you're gonna suffocate, basically. You're unable to breathe in. It's a painful death. They're just saying, hey, I am near death. Just give it to me now. Let me not have pain and fall asleep and go away. And, we do that to animals, right? We euthanize animals all the time. When they're in pain, they're sick, they're not doing well, they're not gonna make it, the one in the vet will come out and say, you need to look back. And the argument is always the humane thing to do, right? The vet doesn't come out and say, you need to put them down. I mean, they're pretty good, they'll be around for a few more years, but, go ahead. No, they do it when the animal is very sick or not doing well, and there's no way that they're gonna be able to recover. Well, we don't do that for people. So those are some of the dilemmas, right? That's how they have these arguments. I've heard people argue that back, so we do it for animals. They can't help themselves, right? They could make a decision if you're a dog or cat or here, but can't answer for themselves. They could be in total pain. The last thing you don't want is you don't want your animal in pain, right? You're gonna be sitting there saying, they're suffering, they're hurting, they're trembling. Do something to make them feel better, or to take that edge off the pain. So that's just something to consider. But again, there's no right or wrong answer in this discussion. This is just things that you know.
I guess it depends on your view of mercy killer or not. Or is it even killing you in the first place because there's no malice?
And that's why these are very
At that point.
difficult.
Yeah.
Manslaughter.
Yeah, but that's manslaughter.
That's manslaughter. Okay, so that's the point because as a society we haven't come to a conclusion on what's acceptable and what's not. In some societies, it is determined, right? You can do certain things, but in the society here in the US, that decision-making process hasn't been reached. And it can impact in a whole lot of ways. So, like I said, it's an interesting topic. It's interesting to see the different views, in here.
I think the easiest things like, if someone if they're doing the but not that I've had to do it, but I'm sure you had to sit and watch someone actively die. I wonder if that would change the about giving them something that will help them, relax message, but there's And then it's sit there and see her struggle. I imagine you're a picture of him, you know what I mean? This is true. Like, it's having, they would be very.
Yeah, it can be. Can be.
You just need to. Is things probably for different Flora. I think you need to know like when there's a vision to legal in that situation. You know, so you have vision suffer like that would be awesome and that's the goal. But if you lose your job because of it and you can't save other people, like overall, is it worth it to treat
Right.
the patient and not really treat any of that?
So let me ask you, how if they would know how much more you get? To the patient, right? To his friends, somebody else around. I do whatever I want, I can say how much I gave, you're gonna get a record of it. Nobody's gonna, this isn't a suspicious death, right? They all know they're dying. What was this human patient? And they say, figure, I need you.
And there's no like laws or anything, like no.
There's
It's just.
They're not gonna find me, there's no camera on, No, but I mean, what if, so there's, from the standpoint, not only lose your jobs, we're never gonna find out. You and the patient are the only one ever gonna know, they're gonna be this.
Breaking the law.
What it says, you can't get all that, we never.
Oh, no, I would probably.
That's exactly why the angel, like the serial killer angel of death, would do that.
Yeah.
Was that he just gave people a crap ton more more morphine than like, well, not maybe not a crap ton, but just like enough to make it not suspicious, like that they just died of natural causes.
Yeah.
And so, because I think at that point, like, because if the possibility of being found out, then you and the people around you could be ruined.
Yeah, I like that.
I guess I could see my older business with the case. So she was asking for more questions from the part of the grade. Without including to like answer or not with these perceptions and a little bit, but it's.
The last line, or less than line, she asked her doctor to give her Diamorphine for pain, she begins to supplement her chart. This will lessen her pain, but it also hasten death. When we got called the doctor for the pain thing. About a week later, she called very ill and was having trouble breathing. So she's going through the cycle of expected passing by this disease. Now, you and your friends are standing. And she's already asked about it, just you give me enough, get rid of the pain, it will hasten her death, she's gonna die anyway. Not a few minutes, but you have to pull to sit in that or to allow it, not really not.
Other laws of them. So that's a different.
Well, if you know it's enough, it's gonna call it off. So the question is, give her a standard amount, that's not what she's asking. She's asking for an increase of it, which she knows is going to be for that. That's the difference. So there's enough you can give her a little bit, but that's not gonna fix the problem. She don't want any pain. So that part is, this is gonna be more. It's gonna be good. And it's gonna be a problem because it's above the dose you're supposed to.
Okay, I guess I know full use of it.
And that's okay. That's okay. So now you're not. Glad you down for a jet.
Well, I thought you were just gonna like. I was confused, I thought you were like more to the amount that is typical, which is sort of die a little faster anyway.
If you were a significantly higher dose to increase her rate. But in that case, it takes away all her pain. And that's what you want. You have trouble breathing, she's starting to get a lot of pain. Give you this huge dose, it's going to help you to die a lot faster. Loss relative, I mean, what she is, but she won't have any pain.
And that's the only.
Oh, it's okay, no, I know, like,
I would
yeah,
say-
you'll inject, I know.
Absolutely,
You're gonna inject,
absolutely. I mean, I've seen people call out to God and that's why they're still here. And like, that's horrible to see. Like people in nursing homes and stuff, these parents, these kids don't like, these kids aren't around, like, like just them there. They're literally sitting there like praying to die.
now, are they actively dying or are they just sick of being?
Trying to act with somebody.
Okay, I'm just checking, because I mean, I know, I've seen people don't want to be a nursing home, I do not blame them. You know, I'd rather just leave off into an active ball game. So. I said, that's how I'm gonna go, like, I'm like near the end. I'm just gonna go with a helicopter with a volcano and jump. Well, it's God, you know? So, no, those are all good points, you know, this, you know, so the question one, she had the right to make a decision, especially with the effect of the dead for time. Next question, is the short amount of time she had to live ethically relevant? We're not talking days or months, we're talking hours. Does that change the ethical ruling
So you said hours and not like minutes?
now? But could be minutes, ever how you would move it. But
Is
if,
it
let's say I were to tell you it's 5:30, and at 9:30, you're gonna be dead. Is it much different than the 7:30? Probably not. It's short. I mean, the time is like, it's a fun. It's not like you'll be dead in 3 months. I ain't gonna have to count 3 months or to figure out just this. She got literally hours. If you don't get any, did that change the other conversation? We're not talking days, weeks, a few hours.
Are we considering family, like family and friends, or
She has no friends, she has no friends. She was.
I know people who've had this actual talk about their relatives. Like,
It's a
if
tough
they're
call,
gonna like let them overdose, like seriously.
but she can't overdose.
No, I mean,
Somebody
like,
has to do it.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if they were going to give them the pill, they might overdose.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah, exactly. Just leave the pills by the bedside, go have a hot dog, and then come back and then they take them, that kind of thing. Like that. Listen, what you really know, I didn't know they were gonna take it, I'm just out. But yeah, so in this case, she has obviously no family that can do that. There's no way they can, help her. She can't do it, right? She's Stevie Martin. And, so,
I guess I'm like, are we debating here the ethics of whether or not physicians assisted suicide is okay, or are we debating that? Fact that it's not illegal in the state, we're just not, with all of.
you're debating whatever ethically, because no matter if it's legal, it's still ethics, right? Just because something's legal doesn't mean it's not, there's not ethical issues associated. So, a law does not make it ethical. A law just says that you charge me with pain. Ethics are a whole different conversation.
Personally,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to this. I do, however. I've been in that commission in Pakistan, it's one state for that, that allows them, and I do, oh, yeah, go for it. But not.
That's right. Okay. No, I got one then. Okay, so you're not opposed to it. Let's say you're in a state that has no issue. You can go out and yell at everybody with your kid, you're fine. You're still gonna be fine. Paige got, what information had 2 weeks in this? Did it change? What kind of one? How was your thought about overdose?
I think the time definitely plays a role until the amount of stuff that's not thing. I don't know if I'm the person that. Was set those rules, but I think that.
Well, I'm just asking, because we're just having a conversation, don't only giving that. Let's say you've got somebody here that's free. And I need you to help me, so, hey, I'm in a lot of pain, but they're not dying, they're just a lot of pain. I know I'm gonna die in a few years. That still, is that the issue, or is it has really lost?
No, I don't need to say. I think you have to make sure that they're sure. Like, I think that there have to be double checks, you have to place, but you have to find a safe word, it has to be things that go on, but you're gonna be. In a lot of cases, for sure die in months.
What if the pain is better than that? Yeah, well, it's kind of up to you too, right? Because they're pulling you into that the thing. So the complicating factor here is if she could just do it herself, nobody would say anything. She's OD'd on her own in there, but she's making someone else be a part of it, which becomes the challenge. In this case, it's a licensed professional. So they have the issues with all the other stuff. Again, so,
I would assume that, like, I mean, considering that it's in like a ethical discussion, like practice thing, that like most facilities will talk about their own procedures and like ethic and like ethical stuff behind that, right? Like,
yeah, and the other thing is when you, it is a good thing to have a living will, right? So when you are not able to answer for yourself, you have a set of directives on what you can do. So some people like them vegetative state, you go ahead and just put all support, and if I live, if I die, but I do it on my own. But that is a living will, which a lot of hospitals want you to have when you go in because it's something that's wrong. Then somebody else is gonna make that decision for you. Because you do not have the directive. They cannot, because for an medical center, they can't make that decision for you. So if you go in and have surgery and go to their home, don't wake up. You have built in the will. There's nothing they can do other than a scan or using the term to fall together. Say you say, I want to hang in there. I am going to hang in there better. I want to be fed. I want to have the TV on. I want to be taken care of. All this stuff, and I don't care if it's 10 years, because I may wake up one day. People have often woken up weird illness over here. But just say that. But it won't be your decision. It will be something possible. Which that's what we're trying to just remove that, right? Just put it into a living will, and then those decisions can be made. Correct. So um
I personally don't think that like permission to say something should be like, in the system per se, like how they've done it in the breakout like in Canada essentially. And like you're going through this time in your life and then essentially the government or insurance is basically like, have you considered killing yourself as the solution? You know?
Yeah.
It's like this way it's like insurance is like, well, we can't like tell him to kill himself, so I guess we'll pursue, helping him survive, essentially. Yeah, I think from a moral standpoint, it's not the worst mercy killing type, but as a part of like a big system, I think it's a bad idea.
well, the problem on these things too is we're talking about it, begin running organization, but start committing to this person, right? What's the organization? They're very tight knit. What brings the maybe position brings in, there's no chance for you. Complicated. After they could pull out of this. Treatment's coming up, don't do anything, and they hold on to that, right, and they don't. So now you get the family for the get hospital, if they get hurt for it, people mess it up, which is the same as. But then they were all, you've seen this kind of debates, about withholding treatment over, efficiency and pediatric patients and not treating them and then letting them go somewhere and how they're in. So it's tough. It's tough. That's why they have, some people that are deciding these tough decisions. Like this was gonna be, oh yeah, a married couple, we just had a child. However, 32-year-old mother, as if she's inherited her husband's. She had it sorted and coinciding over 35 to 40 years of age. It's simply given so lost multiple bone and loss of speech, large muscle spasms, disorientation, and motor lapse. After 15, 20 years of symptoms, instant death. It's a dominant disorder, which means her child will have a 50% chance of contracting this. Feeling that risking the baby's health would be irresponsible, helping decides who's an future organization for what is next. Several HR descriptive. It's expected technology, only things who do not have the defective gene or theft programs. The physician then fertilizes the single egg, transfers to embryo to develop the question. How much they have couple gives birth to a boy who does not carry the gene for the skin. Okay. Okay, is this a case of eugenics, which is developed by hereditary improvement in the numerous controlled by selective group.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't even have to do that. Ass, I had somebody run it out. Okay.
I mean, like from just the sense of it, like we looked at the gene we didn't want and we cut it out. Eventually.
At its base scenario it is eugenics, but like, is it eugenics with morality with it? Because like, with Huntington's disease, like,
Death is certain, right?
yeah, like, I mean, it's just like, why, like, would you even want to, like, I know it's the parent's decision at this point, but like, would they even want it? So,
50-50 chance.
yeah,
So it's a good chance to do it, but you just there's this stuff. I guess that's okay. Right, it's just that they know about this one. So who thinks it's selective?
Not competitive. But I feel like whenever parents and the kids, they don't care really if the boy or girl just wants to be a healthy baby. Instead of taking those chances from 50-50 outside 100%, looks like we guarantee at least like from that to be.
In Huntington, that could be something else, right? But Huntington, that should. So should they test for more things?
They want to.
That's,
Think it out, think it out.
That's the slippery slope in my opinion.
That's where it gets. It gets them so why when is too much?
Well, when you become pregnant, they add genetic test done.
No, that's fair. They do, you're right, they do ask. But you're already correct, right? When we're talking about 40. We're like, I'm gonna go put this up on the board and dial this up. No, I don't want that. No. Heck no, get rid of that. And then give me one of these. So, I mean.
Get a number
that
nine.
becomes automatic.
Like a number 9 with cheese.
So,
Well, it's hard for my second to younger being on the pump. Where if they have a child that, you know, diagnosed with terminal ailment, they will genetically select just like that egg that will, or baby that will donate stem cells, organisms to the child. That's it.
yeah, it's a lot, it gets very complicated. Because that's like, it's kind of where we're moving, right? If you can just genetically program what you want, in theory, I can see a movie of this, walk in, this color eye, this color hair, or what, all that, like 6 feet. And, I'm gonna, I want daughter, I'm fine, and, I want, oh, absolutely genius, yes, so, I mean, but that removes all the nuances, right? 'Cause in theory, there can just be a room full of us that all look the same, all have the exact same type components and thoughts, but instead we have a lot of imperfections. It doesn't, everybody says, doesn't know your imperfections make perfect. That's always what it is, but that makes you you, right? I mean, if you're all the exact same, and ultimately that's where it would lead, right? It would lead to the vast, there would just be very slight variations between people. Wouldn't be there anymore. Right? She's all in my life, take them out. So,
Seems every time in human history, humans play God, something bad. Immediately
it goes
falls.
wrong. It does go wrong.
Like you split the atom, you go, we could use this for power. There goes Hiroshima.
See, you just think about that. I think about, Jurassic.
yeah.
Dinosaur. I mean,
Man.
dinosaurs roaming the freaking earth,
Man.
What's love that movie? They had a little video of the dino guy. It's great.
What-
But it's true, right? When you start messing around with that stuff, great, then unintended consequences tend to happen. And that's where things tend to go silent. Just like artificial intelligence, right? You develop an AI, it's great to write a paper. Yeah, I won't write one of the papers, that question I ask you, I gotta make sure I'll try, I'm sure somebody's gonna try it. And, after defense, a couple weeks ago, Ramsey had. If you see, I have to read you the letter that he made it right, AI right, his hot tub company that hasn't yet to service his hot tub. Absolutely hilarious. Cause he's like, tell him, I need service, hot tub. No, tell him I really, this has impacted my life. And that this letter was just comical. Of like how it's destroying his enjoyment and peace of mind and he needs and so it was hilarious. And we're like, you didn't send it. But no, I actually sent the letter. Like for that to be passed around that service department nonstop right now. So it's absolutely hilarious. But it's so AI, they take our move like AI is really cool, right? It can write a paper, it can we think of all the good things like the internet, right? The internet's great, it does a lot of things, can't imagine life without. But now we see all the problems with the internet, all the things that happen because there's a lot of negativity to it that we can't necessarily control. AI is going to be the same way. It's going to develop like it's going to morph. So like a lot of people talk about it. And there was an interesting article or interview with Elon Musk. And it was interesting. He said, because he had a part owner in an AI company years ago, he divested out of it. The humans are the smartest on the planet, as far as we know. Not the strongest, not the biggest. There's plenty of others that are, but we control it, right? Because we're the smartest. So we know how that handles, but for the first time, you're going to get something that will be probably 100 times more intelligent than the human. So the consequences are unknown. We just don't know because we've never been in an environment where we're dealing with something that's smarter than us. And AI will be smarter than the average person. Well, smartest person, it just has capabilities beyond what I do. And the ability to learn and to learn more and to do stuff is going to have a huge impact on society. So maybe that should be our next case study. Who's all for AI? That's surprising thing. I would at least thought one or two. And there's a couple of flaws in AI, but so who thinks it needs to be regulated? It's sitting on the fence, so you're up to something, but everybody else thinks regulated, and you're not totally for it. So where do you sit?
I mean, what are we going to regulate?
The development of it, where it can be employed, what capabilities of it. I mean, do you want to just completely unleash? You can do whatever they want with AI. I mean, you can train AI to tell lies. Like I said, one of the most powerful things is you can get it to be so effective, it can convince you that it's telling you the truth, and you think it's telling you the truth, and the entire thing is a lie. They've already shown that it can make up stuff. It's quoting articles that don't exist. So
That's like, there's a lot of people that do that too.
yeah, but not as cool as AI. I mean,
Like-
AI is very effective because also, well, pull these articles, it just sent me 10 articles that is validated. It's going to pull all these things. You're not capable of doing all that on your own, right? If I were to come in and say, go find 25 articles tonight and tell me what they said in the morning, the AI will do it in about 5 seconds. And generate a report like that. You're going to be like, just let the robot do it, Because you know how it's going to happen. I mean, we've all seen Terminator. We've all seen where you have a little robot in your house that's going to eventually begin, I can see the videos, guys, hilarious. If you're Mr. Butler or Mrs. Butler in your house, and it's going to do these things for you, and then it's going to start getting more intelligent, it's going to start anticipating. Look at Alexa.
Wally.
Huh?
Wally.
Yes. So you don't know. Yeah, I mean, they learn, so they train. So like on your Alexa, you actually have to turn off your listen. So Alexas they do listen to you, as you all probably know. They record conversations, and they do that to better serve. Is what they say, right? Some people don't like that. All Alexas are trained to listen when they're off. They record all conversations, and only a small percentage of conversations are replayed by Amazon or whoever owns Alexa. And they do that to better suit it. But you can physically turn off listen, but they listen. And it's so hilarious. One time my wife and I were talking, and we were sitting there on the sofa. We just made some brand new. We talked about a topic that neither of us had ever researched. I can't remember what it was. Research or anything. And 5 minutes later, on her Facebook page came up an ad on that very site.
Hmm.
And we had not typed in anything, we were just having conversations. And that is the level that it's getting to, that it's going past anything that you can mentally grasp a hold of. It's far superior to anything that mentally we can do. That's what we start talking about AI being superior to humans. And you need to kind of look for waffles.
I mean, even coupon algorithms are smarter than did you ever read about the story where essentially for you some one of those like Walmart type brands, but they started sending coupons for like baby stuff to this family, and the dad was like, well, what the hell is this? Why are you sending me this stuff? Or it was like targeted at him and his teenage daughter. And they targeted her, and she's not pregnant, she's not having a child. It turned out like a month later, she's like, I'm pregnant. And it was like already targeting them with coupons for that.
Everything you do, because we have such a digital footprint now. I mean, look, the vast majority of you have your computers. Maybe 5% of you are doing something class related. Okay, but your computers open, right? I got that. Or the phone. I said, okay. Nonsense later. So everything we're doing has a footprint, right? If you track our footprint, you'll know what we're doing. Anybody that can pull that data out, and you're talking about computers can process in a fraction of a second. Where us as humans, if we sit there and said, okay, what is David doing? What's David been doing the past 2 weeks? Well, most people tell you David, what the police do, they grab your laptop, right? See all the websites you've been to, pull that data, research where he's been. AI can have that done in 3 seconds, and that's probably slow. And pull every bit of information on him that only take me days to go through and look. And he probably deleted the websites he went to find out where you get duct tape and a shovel and everything else. It would have all that information and instant give you that. So those are like the great things about AI, because we're all going to catch David before he gets away, right? Because he won't be able to get away with it. But it's also those things that can start catching everybody else into problems. So that's the big question about AI. Do you begin to control it?
And the same with evolution of it as well. Like when you set up these algorithms, they're like, these are like my parameters for success. And then it keeps making new generations. Well,
Yeah.
you can reach, 1,000, 2,000 generations in days or weeks or less time even. You can't reach the 2,000 generation of humans in evolution in any reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, it's gonna just expedite everything. Just think about the old days before you all were doing these kind of Monte Carlo calculations. Literally, you started it and left. And it can be weeks of calculating. Now it's hours of calculating, minutes of calculating. All these things have sped up, right? Because the processing speeds. AI is going to do the same thing. It's going to begin quickly learn, quickly be able to compute, quickly analyze, much faster than we're people do. So that's where all the debate comes from. What to do and how to do it. So everybody seems like it's in some form of control.
Mhm.
I just don't know what we did. Like, kind of just grasp, like, what is like humanity that's like technology grasp things.
Well, and maybe the question becomes: is as we progress in technology development, is humanity really getting better? Are things improving? Right? Everybody will say everything improved, right? You go back to the 1800s, 1900s, 2000s, everything's improved, right? Quality of life, opportunities for people, cars, air conditioning, computers, telephones, everything's gotten better. But do we get to an inflection point where all this technology begins to replace us? Right? Because in theory, and that was another part of the Musk interview. Is like, we're way like robots taking over the world, right? But you have to teach AI the importance of mankind, because, like I said, we could wipe out all the chimpanzees right now, right? I mean, the world could go and just kill every chimpanzee in the world. Why don't we? We're adults. They're part of the world. They're part of the development of the planet we're on, and they play a role. If AI doesn't see that in humans, then AI could potentially wipe out all humans. And because it doesn't see any value in it. So there's a lot of complicating factors. And how are these AI systems taught? How are they learning their information? How are they being programmed? And they can be, it's everything. You can write Well, I try to tell everybody, whenever you write code, right, whenever you write an algorithm, we talk about treatment planning systems. They're all biased, whether they mean to be or not, they're biased. They're biased a certain way. They look at optimization a certain way. Just like Brain Lab elements, what you all keep doing plans on. Cranial likes 4 Rs. So it's just the way the software is written. 4 Rs almost always gives you a better plan, and they just found that over testing. It's just an inherent bias in the software algorithm, and that's going to be the same way. If you program things, you set them up to learn a certain way, you can skew the way they learn. And that's not going to be different for AI. So it's a really good dilemma to think about. Where it develops and where it doesn't. But it'll be interesting.
I mean, if you assume like any rate of improvement, eventually it's just gonna be insanely vastly superior.
It's going to do very quickly, like that chat GPT or whatever. That's just exploded, right? I mean, that just came out and out of nowhere. I mean, AI was very naive and young just a few years ago, and all of a sudden you've got an app, boom, 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 it's writing papers. Now there's apps coming out to verify that it was most likely plagiarized through, an AI written. Yes.
And I got an email today about my Grammarly Premium, and they're like, would you like to use our new AI like bot to help you write? Just today, they're like, would you like to download it? Here are the new terms and conditions, would you like to as well?
That's right. That's right. So how do you combat that? How would you combat that?
I
If
mean,
you're me, how would I combat it?
make an AI to stop the data.
Make you write everything in class by hand.
Oh, you're talking about a class.
Yeah, see,
Oh.
it's funny, we're going back now, right? As a professor, we're going back to, you remember the whole thing, we're not gonna get in politics, remember, the voting machines were skewed one way or the other, blah, blah, blah. How can you do that? Because it's electronic, it's computer controlled, you can't skew stuff. Whether it did or not, at some point, you can. How do you fix that? Paper ballots. Literal paper ballots have to be counted and physically inventory. Then you can't do that. Because you can compare what paper ballots you have to what the electronic says. So if I'm worried about you all AI in me, okay, on your papers, I can just say no. Final exams in class, handwritten on paper. Your little chat boxes, all that go away. Can't do anything. So there's ways, and that's where we're going to ultimately go. What's the biggest way to get away from all this? Off the grid. I mean, we get off the grid. Drop your phone. Don't take your car because all the cars are monitored. Drop your phone. Do all this stuff completely separate, and then they can't find you. There's no record of you anyway. There's a lot of push in the world to get away from physical money. Right? You can't track physical money. If you have physical money, you can do things that are on track. You have a credit card, do bank transfer, wire transfer. All that is completely trackable. They know everything that's happened. When you go to physical money, they can't do that. So there's a lot of people moving in that way. Believe it or not, it's not really important. It's the truth of it. We're in a digital society where everything is modeled. Everything is controlled. And those kind of footprints make AI very easy to integrate. So I think it's going to continue to evolve, to continue to develop. And it'll be a really interesting outcome.
There's a mathematician at Harvard that published paper about this. I'm starting to look at it now.
Yeah.
The technology that they put out. As technology progresses, humanity it's like an afterthought that we
Yes.
Were you talking about the Unabomber?
Yeah.
Theodore J. What a man.
Oh, they've blown up anybody. But it is.
It was this like.
Why could they not get the Unabomber?
It was this exact same thing. Yeah. And it's true, like, I mean, you read it in 30, 40 years ago. It only comes.
Full circle. I mean, it is. Well, like I said, why would they not even have Unabomber? He was completely off the grid. There was no way to track it. Did nothing in order to put anything to him because he was just completely isolated. Those are the hardest people to catch. So, then the other thing about AI, it's already Charles Bennett. Most people say that war can be fought completely with AI and robots. Okay, so who think that's a good idea? People don't have to go to war. Only the robots go. You think that's good? How many people think not that war's good? I'm not telling you war's good, but Do you think it should be fought with robots or should it be fought with people?
So I think we're actually really fighting wars.
Well, we all use some of that, but like, I mean, the Ukraine and Russian war, there's people on the front lines, there's fighting going on. Do you want that or should that just be all robots?
I don't think, to me, robots, like, I'm not talking about like on like a battlefield or anything like that. I'm talking about like they go into like robots into a town or something like that. I mean, regardless of whether or not, there's still gonna be people and robots don't necessarily need to follow rules of engagement. So they don't like
So how about if you put AI in a robot?
either way, it's gonna go back to what you said earlier, where it's like what you programmed it. If you programmed it victory, technically 100%, technically 100% enemy casualty rate is still a victory, despite
Yes, how it's programmed, right?
yeah,
And then it becomes a war of who has the best AI, who has the best robot. And so if somebody surpasses somebody or can corrupt somebody's AI through a virus or whatever, then you can completely annihilate a group and totally disable everything they have. That's probably where we're gonna head, right? I mean, if you look at it, that's where we're heading. If you look at some of these new robots that you can like literally kick and they can gyroscope, I mean, they can figure out that they can actually catch themselves and stand back upright. It's a very rapid revolution in robotics. But, you know,
Gavala was here.
Mhm.
Well, Dr. Gavala was here, like one time he showed us like, I think it was for, what was it, cluster? Like how many attacks it had like per day,
yeah.
just from like Chinese IP addresses, like every single day, just
Yeah, there's hackers galore out there. I mean, so Electa, who does Mosaic, they have a cloud where all the patient data is. They said they get on average hack 10,000 times a day to try to pinpoint and get into the patient database. About 10,000 hacks a day, which is just shocking. And think only one's got to get through. I mean, that's the thing. You know, you got to be, you know, the whole thing. You got to be right 100% of the time. The one time, you know, you can be right a million times, but the one gets through and gets it's very, very hard to protect against that because there's you know, people sitting in pajamas somewhere, you know, computer, you know, eating Cheetos and hacking away, you know, using their stuff for for evil.
I mean, there was a guy who hacked into the Pentagon, and I mean, the story was kind of stupid, but regardless, he did it. He hacked into the Pentagon and took files to win an argument on a Discord server.
Oh, you talking about that one guy that just arrested?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Like, I mean, regardless, the thing still stands where your point still stands. Like, I mean, here's his at home in his pajamas, and he only did it just to win an argument.
It's tough to, first of all, I had 21 kid had that kind of security clearance, shouldn't have had it, it's kind of weird, but. We're very casual with a lot of this information, right? People get passwords, login information. So when you go to the hospital system, they'll say, do not log in, don't share your password, you can be terminated, share your password. And login information because it's patient information in hands. And, but you know, it's still encouraging that in some respects, things are still like, I don't know if you ever heard about like, you know, Jamie Foxx is hospitalized in Atlanta. There's been no release on his information for a month. There's been no release on what the medical condition is, which is impressive because you always think there's going to be somebody, right? Somebody can walk by. Tons of people in that hospital are seen in charge. This guy's a star. And you know, there's people wanting to know what's wrong with him. Could easily sell that information to TMZ or some news or entertainment outlet and find out that for over a month there's been no release of any of this medical information. That's the importance. That's what we all want, right? If we're in the hospital and we have a condition, we don't want it released without us validating who it's going to its interference. So,
What do you think about the AI on the water? Like if we had the option, like even. We should start doing it, right?
you're gonna have to, because it only takes one to do it. Right, so let's say we don't do it, it's like, no, we're gonna fight with people, and let's say Russia, we fight with, all it takes is China, it takes India. It takes somebody to say, I'm not gonna do it, I'm gonna get robots to do it. And all of a sudden, they come out with 5 million robots. you do not have the manpower to fight 5 million robots. And so you have to be at the front of that race. So you either embrace it and become the most powerful army where they don't want to fight. I mean, this is what Star Wars is all about, right? I mean, it's, that's, you develop a drone army that can function and people don't go to war. I lost 3,000 or 3 million robots last year. Now they're robots, they're not my loved one, they're not my family member. People say, I'll take it. But then the race becomes better robot, better AI. And if the one that will win is the one that's the best.
So do you think that, like obviously like nuclear non-proliferation, is a big thing, people find other movies. We should like not, maybe not now, but we should kind of create maybe like robot soldiers and robot that like that. Like have a non.
There's always be somebody that won't abide by it. That's just the way the world works. I mean, it'd be perfect if people did. And we all know they do. Because everybody needs a leg up. And robots are kind of easy to do, right? I mean, you can do that in a lab somewhere, small footprints, nobody knows what's going on, it's easy to do. Nukes are a little harder, right? You gotta buy, fissile material, you gotta build, you gotta test some robots, you can test in in a room. In a university, I mean, let's say, for example, for they do all this completely under the cover. No one would know what they're doing. They're probably, they don't have finances to do it, but they can certainly partner with somebody. So it's gonna be a real challenge. I don't see how you not do it.
What do you think of integration into people?
No, it's my favorite.
What if someone was like, hey, would you like the vision of like an
And then
eagle?
so you're good forever, get your data chip with all your information, pop it in there, so there I am. It'll probably happen, to be honest with you, but it's probably in some sort of fashion.
Well, I'm almost kind of surprised. Don't you think that somebody out there is just hammering away on this like war robot thing? Like, oh, once I figure this out, like everybody's done.
Oh, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You can say, take on the high road, not gonna do it, we're gonna play nice. There are people that are not going to do that. There are people that have nothing better to do than to do, because if you look at the robot capabilities, I mean, I've watched them, they can teach and they can open doors, they can go, I mean, still in the early development. This is gonna continue to just basically have a straight up curve on development. Then you plug in an AI type computer design and the capabilities into that robot. Capabilities are going to be unbelievable. And then you can just go unleash tens of thousands of them in a war zone.
Then you send one back in time to kill the vision.
That's right. That's right. You're minding your own business. So mind your own business, and some guy lands in the parking lot. He stands up and looks like Schwarzenegger. Run. So hope you're not, the guy that did it. But
Hope he doesn't ask you for your clothes.
Yeah, I don't
my life, give it to him.
have a bike, so I'm good there.
That's right. So, it'd be interesting to see where things go. But in the world of medical physics, we'll still be shooting.
Maybe instead we'll go to virtual reality. It'll be a simulation.
We're almost looking, well, the metaverse still. So
Yeah, but like
What about have you ever seen the movie War Games? Yeah,
she'd like to play a game.
yeah, like that. It's like, I mean, that's essentially what it would be, where you had that machine in control of the nukes.
Yeah.
And granted, Matthew Broderick's character was sticking with the game, but like
Yeah.
it was a simulation and almost caused nuclear fallout.
Well, the funny thing is, I don't know if you saw recently, the Congress bipartisan, this long time ago, doing bipartisan here. All nukes will no longer allow any AI control. All nukes have to be banned and handled.
It looks like in
all
the,
of that because of that, the very reason.
like in the USSR, that essentially alarm system that was busted one time. It's like, oh yeah, the Americans launched all their nukes towards them.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna wager that didn't actually happen. Hope it turns out okay.
Yeah.
But an AI goes, hey, they just launched their nukes at me. I'm not taking this and just throw everything
But
back.
that's why they all joke that all be left with robots, because you'll do a nuclear war, all humans will be killed, the robots will be the one that's left. They'll be a good thing. So it's better upload your data. Unless they're robot turkish. See here.
I think I saw something. I think it was in an interview with Elon Musk as well. He was talking about it. I think the biggest argument for people say, oh, we're living in a simulation is that it's like if you assume any rate of progression in like this virtual reality, at any rate of progression, we're eventually going to get to the point where cannot distinguish it from reality.
Yeah, that's why it's probably heading that way. It becomes extremely difficult, right, to distinguish between reality and.
So then just.
I think I saw recently there was like a short video game trailer, and like it was designed so well, like people were having a lot of issues because like it actually looked like someone was just getting shot. I guess it was like within the past week.
Yeah, it's very hard to
Unreal.
delineate truth.
Yeah, Unreal Engine.
So, but that's by design, right? So. You're gonna edit everything, change things. It'll be a new paradigm. For everybody to support for it. So, but these are good, this has been a good discussion of ethics. And as you can see, all the discussion, no right or wrong answer. It's just a lot of things that you would have to take that into consideration. This is what other people say, kind of like maybe you hear part of the story, you know, get the full story. And then like, well, I hadn't thought of that opinion, it may change, or you know, it may solidify your opinion. There's not anything wrong with you one of them. It's just things to consider, right? It's just things to find when you do this. So that's enough for ethics. But we've edited out tonight. So you know, we've solved or attempted to solve all the problems this evening.
Take the Dr. House approach. Just throw out ethics and get the job done.
Yes, and that's where you got trouble. That was half that show, right? You know, it was always he was pushing the ethic, you know, and the limit, what you can and can't do. So that's probably that's the storyline. At least 75% of all these medical shows. You know, and I love it too because you go in them and they're always going to be like dark, fancy hospitals. You go into any hospital, they do not look like that. They're not nice like that. They're older, run down, or broken bowel before. Some of that, these are all like advanced, backlit, LED lighting. That's this.
So I remember an episode where like how destroyed an MRI machine just on a whim. Like, oopsie.
Yeah, that'd be a big problem. So yeah, once you so it's out of curious, get back to medical physics. If you were to like take something metal and it MR grabbed it, took it, what would the only thing you could do to fix that?
Can you restate that?
So I've got a hammer and I walk along, I decide to walk into the MR unit. Well, then my hand goes to the MR unit. It's stuck on the MR unit. How can I get that hammer away from the wall?
Shall I turn it off?
Always on today. 24/7. What can you do? Construction. Construction. Figure And we're gonna, answer that is no.
Across the streams.
No, do not cross the streams.
Advise patient, but there's a camera up in every.
It won't fall down, we promise.
Trust me, it's done.
Quench the magnet. No, quench the magnet. That's a very costly procedure. Okay, only way to do that to all of it. And it will come with such a velocity, because there's people been killed in the MR2s. That something's come in like a oxygen tank has been gone into the tube and filled. Because it'll come with a force unbelievable. So. But yeah, quenching the magnet. You know, never been done.
Always crazy to me, like how strong these magnets are, but they're still like a lower Tesla almost. It's like you learn about it in physics, like, oh, this is like 5 Tesla in this equation. It's like,
Yes,
High
you
Tesla.
got a 3 Tesla magnet, you're like, wow, that thing's powerful. And always the stronger the magnet is not always beneficial to the image that you're looking at. That's the trick. Some lower energy spectrum. Okay, so tomorrow night will be lab. I will do it remotely. You can log in around 5 o'clock and do the spot case. If you have trouble, let me know. Because all the computers will be on. And if there's any challenges, like I said, we'll make a lab up either later next Tuesday, lab maker. So if everybody gets stuff done, we don't have to have a lab next Tuesday night, but if we just, you know, love labs, want to do some more planning, more, you know, innovative things. then have at it. You can answer some, I'll be right here. So.
Is there, so is this, I guess for like future reference, like during the summer, is there a way you find it like, oh, it's like Wednesday, like after 6, it's like you could go back anytime.
No, they'll race you.
Sometimes that way. Sometimes that way.
Yeah, like, Schwarzenegger was the one, or did you get a race?
Then,
They'll delete your user account. They do that by default. You won't have free reign access on the servers. So the only time we ever get on is lab weeks that you're approved to be on because there's very tight lipped times. So this week we'll do it tomorrow night. In the following week, I'll see if I can keep it open. I think I'll bring that to Patty next week. We can do it then. So, but then they'll erase all. Because they get so many people who can be trained to have to keep those accounts clear. Any other questions? Looking forward to the presentations. Lesson number 1, 4:45 next week. Because there's a bunch of you. Let's keep it moving. So it's everybody. 4:45 is a challenge for some of you, I know. Efforts. But 4:45 so we can get moving. We don't want to be here at 10 o'clock. Then part of your grade is being able to stay 10 to 12 minutes. And you flipping the lights on and off, or you like, pulling the plug out of your thing is probably offensive. Want to learn, but only so much. So much information. You consolidate. And that is, it's funny, you're doing so. But being able to consolidate and put in a certain amount of information can actually be quite challenging. So you have to learn to balance what needs to go in, what needs to go out. And if you do a topic and you didn't cover something, it's fair game to the class. If there's something they know that wasn't mentioned, that's fair to ask, hey, did you look at this? And say, oh, okay. And if you did, you just didn't include it, then you should go talk about it, right? But if you didn't even see it, then again, that's balancing presentation, right? Including key topics. Can't include everything most of the time, but you need to include the important stuff. All right.